Our speakers are going to help us today, our panelists. And it is, I know for me, and even for Jennifer and Nyla and I, we did a little prep call and talked with each other in advance, and we were all asking questions of each other. So this is always something that's a topic of interest because we always have something that we're unsure about. So hopefully we'll learn some new stuff today. So we have Nyla Hill with AAA Insurance. So Nyla, wave to everybody. And then Jen Melton here, and she is with Navigating Medicare, and they happen to be one of our education partners, so we're happy to have her here today. And both of them have had over a decade in insurance business and really love serving people, and that's been a lifelong thing. I think it's not just the insurance side of it. So we are going to get kicked off here. I'm going to come up here and join you guys. Whoops, microphones would be good. I probably need another cup of coffee, I guess. Perfect. All right. So I told Nyla and Jennifer that what I was going to do is ask the audience first, how many of you guys are on Medicare? Okay, so we've got not the majority, it's majority, okay. So we just wanted to make sure we weren't making assumptions because we do have some folks that are on traditional insurance and their answers may be different than a Medicare answer, right? So, and then how many of you guys have life insurance policies? Okay, at the very end, Nyla, we're going to talk about that a little bit. So, but what we wanted to really focus on today was home and auto, and then also health insurance, okay? So we're going to kind of flip back and forth, and I think that the interesting thing is regardless of what kind of insurance you have, understanding how your personal needs might impact your options is a good place to start, right? So I think what I'm going to do is start with Ms. Jennifer. If you want to talk a little bit about the insurance from a Medicare perspective, if we have one spouse that's working and one spouse that's not working, which would be a personal need situation, how might that impact our insurance? Or options?
Yeah, that's a good question. So it really depends on the situation and the ages of the couple. So we see combinations of all situations. So say you are the wife and you're working and you've got your group insurance and your husband's on it. Now you're gonna retire and you get to retire and your husband is 62. So he's not ready for Medicare, but you are. So that can create an interesting situation because now you're going to move off of your group coverage and you got to find a solution for him. And so whether that's an individual policy that he has to go through, a lot of times that cost can go up significantly. So sometimes the group administrator, they can allow for that spouse to stay on even though you're not. And depending on the company, maybe you get to take your insurance with you, maybe you don't. So there's a lot of questions that you need to ask the HR or the group's administrator as you're going into that. And maybe even, we always say with Medicare like 3 months, but I would say if you're in one of those situations where you've got two people on the group that are different ages, I would start like 6 months before, making sure you've got a plan of what you're going to do after that.
Okay. Quick question. So if one is going on Medicare and their spouse is on a group coverage plan or is going to be rolling off of that group coverage plan and they come and visit with you about their Medicare, the person that's eligible, can you guide them on what questions to ask their group administrator?
Yes. Or what? Yeah. A lot of times, depending on how we set up that appointment, sometimes we arm them with a lot of questions before they come see us. And then sometimes it's just, we find all of that out all at once.
As you're talking, yeah.
And so usually what I do is I'll send a list with them of specific questions to ask regarding their policy.
Perfect.
We always like to be able to see the group policy because there are a lot of times where they have the option. They can go to Medicare or they don't have to. Okay. And there's a lot of times that people have their group insurance paid for by their company. And the benefits are really good. And so we always encourage people to stay there if they can. So if what you have when you come to see us is better than what we can offer you, we're going to encourage you to stay where you're at. So it's good to be able to look at those things side by side. On the other side of the coin, we see a lot of people that are so, they just feel very blessed that they've got the coverage that they have, that they worked and they now have this retirement coverage and they're very proud of it. But sometimes it's not the best coverage for them. And so I've seen people kind of put a wall up where they're not even going to, like, not even entertain a conversation about it. And it's a good thing to do, because you could be paying way more out of pocket, but you're holding on to it because it's something that's yours and you worked for it. But you are entitled to maybe more benefits.
Right. As you were talking, one of the things that kind of floated in my mind was from our previous conversation, you were talking about how people sometimes will go a direction or check out a certain policy or option because a neighbor did or because a friend did. And as you were talking, I can see maybe somebody that they chose to go the Medicare route, maybe didn't even look into what their company might have offered, and so their family does the same thing, or their neighbor does the same thing.
That's right.
So I know that, Nyla, you and I talked a little bit about how personal options can sometimes impact the coverage. I think for you, since we've got home and auto, if you want to pick one and start there and then lean into the other, we can do that too. So what are some personal options that might be an impact?
Sure.
Or personal situations that might?
So insurance is about the what ifs. And your what ifs may be different than your neighbor's what ifs. If you're a homeowner, that's going to be different than if you're a renter. If you drive 5 miles to the grocery store and you're retired, that's going to be different than the person who is still working and driving 20 miles to commute to their job. So it's very individualized, and that's why it's so important to have conversation to make sure that we're meeting your needs, and by all means send your neighbor to us as well so that we can meet their needs. But the needs are different. They're very individualized.
We're going to get into a little bit about what kind of questions and what types of things might be things that we want to put into place. But what I want to talk about too is how with healthcare, sometimes your personal needs might be your medication or your diagnosis or things like that that might drive what options are best for you. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah. Whenever we meet with someone for the first time, that's one of the major things that we need to be able to talk about is where's your health, how are you maintaining it, and a lot of times it's medications that drive your decision. Depending on the medications you're taking, or maybe the way you get your medication. Say you get something done by infusion, or you get cancer medication, but it's a pill. Those are all things that we like to factor into helping you make a decision, because the plan you want it to be the best overall on your out-of-pocket, both premium and at the doctor's office or at the pharmacy. And so that's very important in discussing those things before you make a decision.
I was thinking about the fact that insurance can sometimes be tricky because as Americans, we're really used to being able to just pick and choose what we want. How many of you go to a restaurant and you see the menu and you say, can I get this without the pickles, and can you maybe add some this, and I don't want the bread, and can you do crinkle cut instead of potato fries? We get really personalized with our order, right? So insurance is the same way, right? We can just be cafeteria plan, pick all the things we want covered. It doesn't work that way, does it, right? It's more like the chef says, this is what the order is, and you will either take it or you won't. So having somebody guide you through what can be covered and what can't is an important factor. So But as you were sharing that, that's the image that came to my head was a menu of things. Well, I don't want that. I want this. So go ahead, Nyla.
There are base policies that you can add endorsements to add the pickles, or put the cheese on the cheeseburger. Those would be endorsements onto the base policy.
And then the health side, that could be maybe a rider on a plan that you could get extra benefits. So we can customize things, but when it comes to Medicare, sometimes you got to pick what's the most important and cater to that.
That's just it, right? Yeah. Okay, well, let's move on just a little bit. I want to talk about practical strategies. Okay, so we've talked about meeting with somebody that's educated. Is that a one and done? You just meet with you one time and we're good? We know what we've got? Nyla, if I got my homeowner's insurance when I bought my house, how long should I just keep that policy and not ever check it? I mean, is that something I'm good once I've got it taken care of?
Well, life is about changes, so definitely you should talk with me once a year. But I encourage customers to just be in touch, with any, if you've updated your roof, or you built a deck, or you've got your nephew living with you now. There's things that you definitely should communicate with your agent.
Totally the same. At our office at Navigating Medicare, we always meet with everyone at least once a year, or we communicate the need to. Not everybody does that. They get comfortable and they just keep it. But more than ever, it's so important to evaluate that at least yearly. But as things change, a lot of things can't be changed mid-year, but if you develop something new that's going on, it's really important for us to know that, because it could open up another opportunity for you.
How many of you are familiar with the birthday rule? Want to talk about that? Looks like we got a good audience for it. Sure.
The birthday rule is a law that was put into place, I believe, around September of 23. And what it did was it allowed people that were on Medicare supplements to adjust their premium on their Medicare supplement. So I started an insurance in 2011, and at that time we shopped for the Medicare supplement that had the best rating history. We wanted to find something that went up low and slow, they've been around for a long time, that you could plan on being on that plan for the rest of your life. And the reason why is because at that time, if you developed some type of chronic illness, if you want to change plans, you're able to be turned down, so they don't have to take you. So in 2023, when they introduced this law, now when you're on a Medicare supplement plan, you're able to come to us or call a number and you can get a new quote. So we've had people, my husband's grandpa, for example, was on Plan F with a company paying $520-something. And so I was able to put him with a different company for like $200 a month. He is on oxygen, he's a very sick man, but he still has a Plan F with all the same benefits. And so it's really a benefit to you. If you're on Medicare supplement plan and you haven't looked at the rate, or you've seen the rate go up but you haven't done anything about it, on your birthday, it starts a 60-day window where you can do that. So you can check, see if there's something that's better rate, and then move to that. And just so you know, this is probably the biggest fear that people have to do it, is they're afraid they're gonna lose their coverage. Or, my company has paid for my husband's cancer and it did so well and I don't want to get away from that. You need to know that if you have a Plan F or a Plan G or an N or a K, that type of plan is a plan that's created by Medicare, and all the companies have the same exact plan. Some of them may include a little discount for something, or a little extra perks, but you got to make sure that those perks are worth paying extra for it, so we can help compare those things.
anything similar to that in your world, Nyla, or is it not necessarily? And it's okay if it's not.
I just want to reiterate what she was saying,
Yeah.
that it's so important to have a conversation with your agent and stay updated. That's a real practical strategy, is just to make sure that you've got the proper coverage, that things haven't changed so much that you're paying for something that you no longer own. It's just really important.
Right. And I know when we were talking about practical strategies as far as automobiles, and you alluded to this earlier, if somebody is using their car for a casual, just running to the store and going to church and visiting friends and that kind of thing versus commuting, that it changes their rate. And if people don't realize that, they're paying for their auto insurance at the same rate they pay,
Right.
And they might look for lower rates, but not necessarily change their type of coverage.
Right,
So,
right. And that can be true of home ownership too.
Okay.
I can't tell you how many times someone will come in and say, oh, but I put on a new roof 5 years ago. Well, you didn't tell us that. So you're still being rated with that older roof. If you change vehicles or you change your driving habits, those things are very important to know.
Yeah. And I think you mentioned a nephew living with you. If a nephew's driving your car,
Exactly.
might change the way you use your coverage.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, very
Yes.
good. Okay, awesome. I did not mention this to you guys, but for those of you who come, you know this. I see already a card filled out. But you do have index cards, and if there are questions that you want to ask these ladies, we're going to have you pass those up here shortly, and we're going to open the floor up for conversation so that we can get some personal questions asked. I promised these girls that I would say this to you guys. We have a claims disclaimer. If you have a claims question, these ladies are not claims adjusters. So they sell policies. They can answer some general questions, but if you have a how claims are paid kind of situation, then let's connect with them afterwards and they'll maybe help direct you on how you can get answers to some of your questions, but they're not going to be able to answer those from the stage. So I promised them that they would not be put on the spot to do that. So if your question includes that, let's scratch it out. Okay, so I want to move on just a little bit and talk about, Nyla, you and I were talking about the fact that the state minimums for insurance coverage may be different than what people actually need, and what the difference in different liabilities and that kind of stuff. So can you maybe chat about that a little bit?
Yeah, and that's one of the areas that I see where people are most underinsured is on their liability. Oklahoma requires $25,000, $50,000 for bodily injury liability, and then $25,000 for property damage liability. So 25, 50, 25. I don't even quote that low because it leaves my customers very vulnerable to having their assets dipped into, things that they've worked hard for all their life, if you are the reason for the accident. So I at least double that liability to start with at $50, $100, $50, but I strongly encourage higher limits.
We're talking about, from automobile perspective, if you have multiple people in the vehicle, from a liability standpoint that way, is there any tips there that might be practical that they need to look at their policies for?
Yeah, so that would fall under the, where you have 25, 50, 25. That 50 covers multiple people.
Okay, it's 50 per person?
It's 50 for the accident,
For the
50,000.
Okay.
Yeah, and so it's 25,000 up to 50,000, and then 25,000 for if you total their car. And I don't know how many of you have noticed the new Teslas and the new this and the new that. Those are not $25,000 cars.
Exactly.
Those are maybe $120,000 cars. So don't leave yourself vulnerable with low liability limits. It does not cost much to raise those limits.
Yeah, yeah. The like you said, insurance is what is. So, from a homeowner's standpoint, we talked about replacement. coverage and what homeowners insurance is actually for, and that sometimes people get frustrated. Again, we're not going to go down the claims route, but that people, from a coverage, what practical strategies to make sure that the what ifs are covered. If there's certain things that y'all are concerned about that you want to make sure, maybe you heard a story about a friend or a neighbor and something happened to them and you're like, oh my gosh, that's terrible, that's egregious, and we want to make, demonize the insurance industry, and it may have just been the policy that they paid for. So maybe share a little bit about that.
Yeah, so homeowners policies used to be called fire policies because you were protecting yourself against fire. Now it encompasses fire, theft, storms, several major perils that can happen. But they're still not meant to cover everything. And that's where you get people that are very quick to file claims for every little thing. People who do that drives up our rates. You guys have heard the saying, Oklahoma takes care of its own. Well, that's in bad times too. So if you filed a claim, I might not have filed a claim that year, but I'm going to help cover your claim with my rates. So yeah, it's a very active time for claims and lawsuits, and so all that we can do to protect ourselves is good.
Thank you for sharing that. So Jen, I'm going to go back to you for just a minute. With practical strategies as far as going through, what's something that when they're comparing plans, because I know we talked a little bit about the neighbor having the same plan and that that's not what you need and all that. So maybe how to compare plans and some things that might be practical tips that might be helpful. Is there anything you could add there?
Yeah, that's a lot of what we do is compare plans based on your medications, your doctors, your budget. And what we were talking about is just cautioning you on comparing plans just with everybody. It's nice to talk about it and kind of get an idea of what other people's experience is, but it's so subjective because some person could say, I don't pay anything at all. And that person could have a Medicare Advantage plan that's zero premium and they're very healthy and they just go to the gym. Mm-hmm. That could also be a person who pays $300 a month for their supplement and never has to pay at the doctor's office. Mm-hmm. So when you guys talk about that with a neighbor or family member, you're getting part of the information, but you may not be getting all of it. Mm-hmm. So I've had people that have made decisions based on that, mm-hmm. and so they've gotten the same plan, but maybe they're not as healthy. And so now they're paying out of pocket or claims, or they didn't realize, wow, yeah, I'm not paying anything at the doctor, but I can't afford my food because my premium's so high. Mm-hmm. So that's where it helps to talk to someone like us, because we can show you both options, what they cost, what they cover, and then you're getting it from more of a filtered version where you're able to tell, okay, this is my situation, so this is what it's going to cost, mm-hmm. versus basing it on somebody else's experience.
That's right. And then Nyla, you and I talked about we live on the same street, yeah. We have the same floor plan, yeah. But our insurance is different, and yeah. We have both sets of State Farm, or whatever it is, like we have the same, you know what I mean, like what's the deal?
Yeah, we see the same thing with home and auto insurance. You cannot assume that your rates should be what your neighbor's rates are, because there's so much that goes into building those policies. Their credit score, their buying habits, how long have they been with previous insurance companies, how many claims, how many, there's so much that goes into building it that it's so individualized. But that's often an assumption that, well, I should have the same rates as Mr. Joe over here, or, well, he got a new roof 2 years ago, so I should get a new roof. That's not always the case. I don't know if you guys have noticed that hail kind of jumps around. So just because 4 houses on your street got new roofs, doesn't necessarily mean that you need a new roof. It's important to have a free inspection from a reputable roofer. If I could just say real quick, I encourage my customers, don't let the cowboy with the ladder in the back of the truck that's driving up and down your street get on your roof. Don't do that. There was a story not long ago about one of those guys talked to a sweet little old lady, and she said, "Sure, I want you to check out my roof." He went up there, he dug his boot heels ever so often into her shingles and took a picture. Got down off the roof and said, "Ma'am, you've got so much hail damage, you need a new roof." And so it's very important not to fall for that kind of stuff. You contact the roofer, make sure it's a reputable roofing company.
Thank you for that. Okay, so we've got market and policy changes, right? So you mentioned the birthday rule. That wasn't something that has been with Medicare forever. It was a change, right? So if I wanted to understand Medicare, is that book like this big? Or is it this big?
Well, it is. It's about half an inch thick, but most of the things are in there, but there's a lot to be discovered outside of that book.
Sure. And I know that we have both state changes and then just company changes with policies, right, in the way that they cover things. So Nyla, you want to speak to that?
Yeah, a couple of changes in recent years has been with roofing companies, they can no longer negotiate your deductible. It's not classified as a felony if they do that. Another recent change has been insurance companies are very interested in the foliage around your home. If there's too many trees or if there's overgrowth, they consider it a wildfire risk, and wildfires were rampant. Was that last year, I believe? So they've really cracked down on that. I would say also just within the last 2 years, we've seen an increase in the wind and hail deductibles that companies are charging. Very few companies still offer a 1% wind and hail deductible. It's becoming more standard to do a 2% wind and hail deductible on your home. But some companies we've seen even charging 3 and 5% deductibles. So that's definitely a consideration. The higher your deductible, the lower your premium, but you have to be willing to pay that deductible.
So if that percentage changes, how do they notify the policyholder?
That's the policyholder's prerogative to change that.
Okay.
Yes.
So it's not something that the insurance industry changes to being a 5%. It's us as holders.
If the company themselves decide to take a mandatory 2% instead of 1%, they would have to notify the policyholders.
How does that happen? Is it something they get in the mail?
It's usually by mail.
And do we read those, or do we just throw them in the trash?
You don't.
Yeah.
But that, again, is why it's so important to talk to your agent.
Right.
Your agent is the one reading all the fine lines and the fine print. It's important to stay in the know.
Do you have something you want to add to that? No.
Yes, the agent, we do stay in the know, but it is very important to open your mail. And I'm a complete hypocrite to even say that. You see my pile on my counter. But just a little example, it doesn't really affect you guys, but it may affect it in a bigger way. I don't know if any of you that are on Medicare supplements got the claim or the EOB from the catheter company out in Colorado. So where, you gotta look at those things. I had a couple clients call and say, I didn't do this. This is a, $2,200 bill. And Medicare's paying for it. So it's important that you guys see that stuff and turn them in. And or I've even had people that they've gotten mail that said their insurance company's leaving the state and they need to make a change, and then they didn't do it. So they come January, February, they have no plan because they're healthy, they don't need anything, but then as soon as they do, they realize their plan's gone. We do our best to make sure that we let you know those things, but if we can both work together, it's really helpful.
I thought when we had our conversation, you said something that I thought was so wise. You just said that you can't get the coverage after you have the issue, right? Like you can't do it backwards. So you need to be prepared for the what ifs, right? Okay, well I'm going to have you guys pass up your cards because I want to make sure we leave enough time for questions because I know we're going to have some, and then we're going to talk about maybe some practical things we can put in place after reading those questions. So. Okay to say, that's a great question, I need to look that up, okay? So, all right, so, agents represent certain companies, so how can they be unbiased about different rates, plans? So how do we choose unbiased recommendations? And that can be either one of you.
Well, so that is a good question, and it's very valid. Our agency with Navigating Medicare, we have lots of carriers, but there's even rules about saying we don't represent every carrier. And honestly, you've just you're not going to know until you really start working with them, but just an idea of how we do things. There are some companies that we don't have access to, or they don't allow agents, or they're not contracting agents. But when we are quoting plans, a lot of times we're showing you everything that's out there, and there's been people that wanted a specific plan, and I try to connect the dots and help them get that through other ways. And there's lots of things that we do that we're not contracted with, maybe because it's just not something that is beneficial to us, but we're still gonna give you that information. On the other side, there are agents that don't do it that way. So I think asking the questions of, what do you offer? What are you contracted with? And what happens if I want something different? And they should be able to give you a good answer for that. Typically, if it's something that we're not contracted with, we may show you that price, and maybe you would save $5 a month, but you might be enrolling with somebody in, Minnesota that you'll never see, and that's your decision. It may be worth it to pay a little bit more and have someone local. So, but there are times where it is a big difference, and so we try to facilitate that enrollment, even though we don't have it.
Yeah, and I will say this too, and then Nyla, you can answer the question. The more transparent the team seems to be, you're gonna feel that. You're gonna realize just by their personality, how they operate, maybe what their website says, that kind of stuff, and not just blindly going into it, right? Because how they conduct their business is a reflection of them as a person. And so you can usually get a pretty good read on somebody early on if they're really not altruistic, if it's really more just about them getting the best price out of you.
One more quick thing before you go. Sometimes we don't, we're not contracted with a certain company because it's not something that we want to represent. And so feel free to ask those questions. the more questions you ask, the better. And if we don't have the answer to it, or maybe it's a brand new company we've not heard of, we can look at it together.
Yeah, that's good. Nyla, is anything you want to add to that?
I'm just gonna say ditto.
Yeah.
I mean, you guys answered that perfectly.
Yeah.
That's a great question.
Yeah.
And you do, through conversation with the agent, you'll get a feel for, you know, if they're being straight up with you, or if they're hiding something, or if they don't want to tell you that they're not an A-rated company. Yeah, there's all kinds of ways you'll clearly.
Now, the rating is one way to navigate,
Yeah,
you know, who you might want to deal with.
And you
So,
can certainly do your homework too
Sure.
on that company, and kind of dig into that company and how long they've been in business and what their rating is and that sort of thing.
Yeah.
But in representing several companies, you know, I personally don't ever badmouth another company.
Sure.
I've worked for other companies, and you know, that we're all in this together.
That's right. That's right. And I think that's what's reflected when I said being transparent. Somebody that has that kind of attitude, you're going to know. Yeah. Okay. So our next question is, and this is a Jennifer question. What is the difference between Medicare and an Advantage plan, and how are they priced? So if you want to talk about, I mean, this group said they're all on Medicare, but if you want to just do a high overview of Medicare and an Advantage plan first, and then maybe how they're
So
priced.
the question is, how is
How are
Medicare
they-
different than an Advantage plan?
Yeah, and then how are they priced?
And how are they priced? Okay, yeah, so the first thing is that in order to have a Medicare Advantage plan, you have to have Medicare. So one of the first things to myth or things that people say is if you're on a Medicare Advantage plan, you don't have Medicare anymore. So that's not true. Medicare itself is the insurance that you're entitled to at 65 when you've worked and you've paid in your 40 quarters, or your spouse did, or you are entitled to it because of a disability. So with just Medicare by itself, you have coverage for hospitals, doctors, outpatient services, ambulance, skilled nursing, home health care. You do not have coverage for prescription drugs outside of the hospital. So that's something that you would need to add. You don't have coverage for a nursing home facility. So Medicare by itself is your medical, hospitals, doctors. And basically after your deductibles, it's an 80-20 situation with no maximum out of pocket. So you pay 20% after Medicare allows, and then your part never stops. So the opposite side of that with the Medicare Advantage plan, so like I said, you have to have Medicare. What it does differently is instead of Medicare being who's paying those claims, the claims go to the insurance company. So here in Oklahoma, we have quite a few different Medicare Advantage plans, and every one of those companies is contracted with Medicare, and they have to cover everything that Medicare would cover. And as far as the costs go, it's a little weird on Medicare Advantage. So, and even with supplements, Medicare in general, when you're dealing with Medicare Advantage or supplements, it's no longer like you get what you pay for. It's not that type of situation, because when you go and you look on Medicare.gov, you will see that there's Medicare Advantage plans for $0 per month in addition to your Part B premium, and there's some that are $160 a month. And that $160 plan or $50 plan may not have as good benefits as the $0. So the premiums are not really what you're looking for when you're looking at Medicare Advantage. But just know they have to cover everything Medicare covers. Now, the difference is who's making the decisions and who's paying for the claim. So when you have a Medicare Advantage plan and that goes to your company, then they pay their part and you pay your part. And even though it's a covered benefit, they may ask for more information. So sometimes you'll be at the hospital and a case manager may say, our request was denied. And a lot of times that denial is just a request for more information. So you gotta be in that process. Push back, ask questions. So yes, the things that are covered under Medicare are covered under the Advantage, but sometimes you gotta, do some extra legwork to prove that you need that.
All right, so this one is going to go to you, Ms. Nyla. First, do you think earthquake insurance is needed in Oklahoma? I don't know if that's a personal question or if that's a AAA question. And then also, if your neighbor's foliage flows into your property or falls on your property or impacts your property, any tips there? So, you're up.
Earthquake insurance used to be an endorsement on a home policy, and you may still have it endorsed on your homeowner's policy. But new business, it's no longer an endorsement. There are companies that we write separate earthquake policies for. My overall thought on that is, if you can't sleep at night because you don't have earthquake insurance, you should have earthquake insurance. There was a time that everybody was buying earthquake insurance, and then it slacked off. But that's my overall thought on that. Your neighbor, get to know your neighbor, work together. It's the same thing as if a fence comes down that's between the two of you. It's often better if you can just work together. If they've got a big limb that's coming over your fence or encroaching on your roof, you need to talk with them about that and see if they can work with you on it.
If it were to fall on your house, if it's not taken care of, then is the onus on them or you? Or does it depend?
I'm going to defer that to claims.
Okay, that's fair. That's fair. That's what they need to know, right? So
yes.
It's a claims question. Okay.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Good. Very good. I told you I wouldn't throw you under the bus. So, all right. Nyla, if you can give some recommendations, what are some tips on how homeowners can save on their homeowners insurance and maybe on the deductible? Are there any tips there?
So as you know, insurance rates like eggs and gas have gone up. Saving on your homeowner's policy sometimes will come down to just assuming a higher deductible. If you assume the deductible, your rate will go down. It's also a matter of looking at the endorsements. I met with a gentleman yesterday that he had the icing on the cake policy. I mean, he had everything possible. And we just started going through it line by line. And he said, well, I don't have a mortgage. And I said, well, then you don't need this coverage. And he said, well, I don't intend to rebuild my home. Well, then you don't need this coverage. And so it's really just a matter of looking at your coverage and seeing what you're paying for.
Follow-up question for myself. If you mentioned that there are a lot of factors that go into how they decide what your rate is based on your credit score and things like that. Are there ways to have them, can you as a policyholder request that they re-review your stats? Is that something that can happen?
You can request that.
Or it could open a can of worms.
It can open a can of worms,
Okay,
right.
okay.
Because the major factor on homeowners insurance is what your home is insured for. It's called dwelling coverage. And there's a lot that goes into that number, and that's like the major number on your policy. It's called dwelling coverage. They're looking at the shape of your roof, how many bathrooms, what kind of floor covering, how many garage spaces, the age of the home, the foundation. There's so many things that go into that number. And if you ask your insurance company to reassess that number, it can go up. Mm-hmm. Often people will say, well, my home is not worth that. Mm-hmm. We're not looking at market value. We're looking at what it would cost the insurance company to rebuild your home if it were leveled by fire, by storm. And so that's that dwelling coverage. And if you ask for a reassessment on that, it could go up instead of down, and then they're not likely to go down again.
Okay. Well, hopefully that gave some guidance for that question. And I think we kind of talked about this, but why my insurance keeps going up. And sometimes, and I'm assuming that maybe homeowners insurance doesn't indicate, but for either one, the reasons insurance goes up is because of the claims that are out there. I mean, you mentioned that about paying for each other's claims. So
claims is a big thing, and lawsuits is a big thing. I don't want to step on anybody's toes here, but if you ever watch daytime television, there's so many attorney commercials about let us handle your accident, don't go through your insurance company. All of that just drives rates up. I had a thought, and I think I lost it.
yeah, that's okay. No, that was good. It was just why insurance policy prices go up, or insurance goes up.
Oh, I was just going to say that often customers will say, well, I'm getting older and my car is getting older, so why are my rates going up? I tell people, in regards to auto insurance, the very young and the aging are not getting the best rates. Insurance companies have a sweet spot. They like those 30 and 40-year-olds. So they're the ones getting the best rate.
Yeah. And there are some things we can do as far as that goes, as far as car insurance, if you take driver's ed type, you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, there's driver safety
courses
you can take
right,
to get a discount on lower insurance.
And theft protection and all those kinds of things that you can add to your environment that might help lower prices.
Yeah, and sometimes I've seen this, that a newer vehicle is less expensive to insure than an older vehicle. You wouldn't think that, but it's because of all the safety features on the new ones.
Yeah, that's good. Okay. All right, so
do you want me to answer that?
You have something to add to it? Absolutely.
When it comes to Medicare, a lot of times when we're talking premium, it's Medicare supplements. And why are they going up? That's what the calls we get. One thing is, like what you were saying about age, every year you get a bigger number. They don't necessarily follow the beliefs of the villages and how you guys are not necessarily more risky, but just the older you are, if you're a male, it's just kind of black and white when it comes to that thing. So as you get older, your rate will go up. You do have that birthday rule to be able to change it. And because of the birthday rule, we've seen a huge increase in premiums. So if you look at it, like anybody, my husband's grandpa that's sick and on oxygen was able to knock off $300 a month. When he got to that new company, he's a big risk. And so now you're taking less from this person for their premium, and you're spending a lot in claims. So hopefully that'll adjust and balance out in the next year or so. But as the birthday rule has come out, we've just seen that rates have gone up really high, and everybody's have gone up really high.
That's great. Okay, so what should we ask of our agents about the companies that we are with? So for example, if I'm with AAA, I'm with State Farm, I'm with Allstate, I'm with Progressive, whoever the big players are there any specific questions we should ask about those companies that might help guide us a little bit on how we check them out and whether they're what we want to use?
So the reason you have insurance is so that you have a good claims experience when that happens. That's the what if. So when it happens, you want to make sure that company has excellent claims ratings. You want to know how are they on paying out claims. You want to know if they're an A-rated company versus a B-rated company. You want to know how long have they been in business. You want to know their financial standing, and you can find out all this if you use Google. It's pretty informative.
Okay. Are there some websites that are governed? Like you mentioned the insurance, there's insurance boards, there's, things like that. So are there...
I think you can even go to the Oklahoma Insurance Department website, and they have a wealth of information there.
Okay, good. All right. Anything to add to that?
I would say you could ask some of the questions you ask. We may have to go get that information and find it for you, but you can ask the percentage of denials when it comes to Medicare, how often are they turning things down.
Okay.
Another thing that you might ask is, does the insurance company use a third party that would approve or deny claims? That may be important.
That's a great question. I would not ask that.
Is it a local company?
Right.
And then some of the things may not always add up to maybe what the rating is. Sometimes we have a really good experience, and our clients do, with something that may on paper look different. So you can get the actual numbers and the science side of it, but then also we can
dig a little. Yeah. Okay. All right. Very good. All right, so I have car insurance with one company, home insurance with another, and health insurance with another. I've been hearing radio ads for an insurance called Sure Insurance that looks at all of my insurance to make sure I have the right coverage and give me a summary of my coverage. Is that company valid? Are you either of you familiar with Sure?
I'll say I'm not familiar with that particular company.
Okay.
That's a great question because bundling used to be the way to go. You wanted to have your auto insurance, your home insurance bundled together, put a bow on it, you're good to go. That's not really the case anymore. You might find better insurance and rates over here for your car and something totally different for your home. And that's okay. I know with AAA...
But evaluating, I'm assuming you're paying a service, you're paying them to evaluate your insurance.
Yes,
they're not doing it for free.
But if you come into my office, for example, and you bring your State Farm or Allstate or Farmers or whatever, you bring your policies, we're going to look at those, and then we're also going to look at comparative quotes, and we just review and see what's best for you.
Okay.
What that sounds like to me is, and I don't know, I've never heard of it, but it sounds like it's possibly an agency that offers several lines of business.
Okay.
And it's probably a marketing piece that went out to get you to call and move your policies.
Okay.
Honestly, a lot of the mail you get is, sometimes it's a great company or person on the other end, but a lot of times it's to get you to change.
They're offering that service.
Yes, they are. But it could just be that they may even just cover one part of that, and maybe they're gonna send you to someone else. But I'm not sure. It's hard to know sometimes.
Sure, that's good. You're not held liable to know all the answers to all the questions, so we're gonna give you guys an out on that. What are some examples of homeowner situations that would be unwise to file a claim for? I was thinking about a hot water heater leak, maybe something like that.
It's a little difficult to get into that. I at one time was insured with another company, and I had raccoons in my attic, and that was covered.
It was covered. Okay.
It was covered. So I think it's going to vary by company. It's going to vary by a lot of situations that goes into the claim.
Yeah.
So does each claim up your premium? Does every claim make your premium go up?
No.
State that again.
I asked if every claim makes your premium go up.
No.
Okay, all right, so that's good. All right, what does replacement value mean on homeowners policy, and how to determine reputable roofers? So those are two very different questions. So we'll start with the replacement value, and we kind of talked about that. Yeah.
So RCV is replacement value coverage. That is full replacement on your roof, on your personal property, on the structure of your home. In comparison to that is actual cash value, and that is depreciated value. So with most insurance companies now, they don't want your roof to be over 10 years old. As long as it's under that 10-year mark, or 11-year mark rather, they'll offer replacement cost value, RCV, and that's full replacement. Once it hits that 11-year mark, most companies are going to go to actual cash value and start depreciating for wear and tear in the age of your roof.
And I want to go to something that's not a roof. Okay, let's talk about the inside of your home. Go back to the water heater. If your floors flood and your flooring is messed up, and it's the linoleum you had in the house in the 70s when you bought the house, are they going to pay for a brand new tile floor that cost, or is it going to be what that vinyl would have cost at the age that it was?
It all depends on the endorsements on
Okay,
homes.
how you have your home
Yeah,
service.
so
Okay.
that would get into endorsements and
Okay.
claims.
Okay.
But you can, like for personal property is all your stuff inside your home.
Yeah.
So if you turn the house upside down, everything that's going to fall out, that's your personal property. You can opt to have that at replacement cost coverage or actual cash value.
Okay.
So if you have replacement cost on there and you have a water claim that destroys your living room furniture from 1978, if you've got replacement cost coverage, it's going to be replaced with 2026 furniture.
Okay.
So hope that helps.
Yeah, no, it does. And so as far as tips, these things that you guys are thinking about, write them down, because my suggestion to take to your agent is the things that keep you up at night, what Nyla said, write those down and say, okay, if this happens, what happens? Because the policy I have, am I covered? The things that worry you, the things that you've heard a neighbor talk about or complain about, take that question and go, is this covered? Help me understand that. And if we need to talk to the adjustment, claims adjustment, we'll talk to the claims guys. So, okay. And then how to determine a reputable roofer. You got it?
So a reputable roofer, I would say is most any of the larger roofing companies, or someone that you have experience with personally, or you know someone who has experience with them personally. I give referrals to the roofing company that put my roof on 2 years ago. I've had interaction with them through the years. I have no problem referring them. So I would just say stay away from, like the cowboy with the boots that wants to get on your roof. And do your research on companies.
In the state of Oklahoma, do they have to be registered? Do roofers have to be registered?
I believe so.
They do. So is there a website that you can go to,
I don't know of a general.
Okay.
Again, that may be on the Oklahoma insurance website.
Okay, we'll look into that and we can get an answer. We'll send it out to everybody in the newsletter. Okay, does the insurance company have the power to deny a claim? Yes, right? Yeah.
Yes.
Yes, they do. Now, if a claim is denied, do you have options?
Yeah, you have the right to appeal
Okay.
and appeal.
And
appeal.
Okay. You can keep fighting. Yeah. Okay. And what about for you, Nyla, with the auto or house? If a claim is denied for some reason, is there the same process?
Same.
Appeal?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Work through your agent, and if it needs to, it can go up the chain.
Okay. Good. If someone without insurance hits me, does my insurance go up? I don't know if they mean physically, pow, or if they mean a car, but I'm going to assume a car.
So if you are hit by someone else
It's uninsured.
that is uninsured, was that the question?
Yes.
They are uninsured?
Yes. Okay, I'm uninsured. Bam, I hit him. Does his insurance go up?
No.
Okay.
It's considered a not-at-fault accident, but any coverage for his bodily injuries or his vehicle is going to be regarding his policy, because you don't have insurance.
Yeah.
And shame on you.
Right. Right. But I guess what they're saying is if it's their fault they don't have insurance, do I get impacted that financially? Does it impact the person that has the insurance in any way because they got hit by somebody that wasn't insured?
Yeah, it should not. Again, I would defer you to your agent to clarify that. But that is a great question in regards to like uninsured motorist coverage. Just to be clear on that, that is bodily injury coverage only in the state of Oklahoma.
Say that again. Uninsured
Motorist coverage is bodily injury coverage only in Oklahoma. It's for you or any passenger in your car. It does nothing to fix your car.
Okay, so then that cost falls to you.
Yeah, so
if an uninsured motorist hits me, it's on me. Your rates may not go up, but you are going to have to pay for it. Okay, all right. How does TRICARE for Life work? Is there a better plan? And does AAA give drivers education classes that reduce premium costs?
So maybe those are two separate.
TRICARE's for you. Look at them being equal opportunity. All right,
I'll just say yes to
Okay.
the AAA question.
Okay, good. Okay.
So for TRICARE, what was the first part of that?
TRICARE for Life, how does it work? And is there a better plan? So if you have TRICARE, would it be wise to look at other options or just stick with TRICARE?
TRICARE does a great job and it works. Your Medicare and TRICARE, you'll be fine. Sometimes there may be little gaps like dental or vision that maybe you want to supplement. A lot of people love adding a Medicare Advantage plan to their TRICARE. It works really well. If you go to the doctor, sometimes if you've got somebody new in a clinic, they may need a little bit of education on how to do the claims. But I do have a lot of people that have TRICARE and they like to be able to pick up some of those extra benefits, and you can get a plan that doesn't have any prescription coverage, so you can kind of keep your medical and your prescription. We can talk about it afterwards, how it works with yours, but most people aren't going to leave TRICARE, but you can add things to it.
Okay, that's good. And then the last question is umbrella insurance policy. Who needs it? And then with the birthday rules, this is a Medicare question. Birthday rule, does it work with the Medicare Advantage as well as Medicare? Like you can shop both?
Because we don't have umbrella coverage and mine breaks all the time.
Yeah, right. Yeah. There were some separate questions, so yeah.
No, with the birthday rule, it's only for Medicare supplement.
Okay.
So your birthday, I'll make you cookies, but if you're on a Medicare Advantage plan, you're not going to be able to change anything.
Okay, that's good. Okay, thank you. And then umbrella policies, tell me about that. Does everyone need one or?
Everyone needs one.
Okay.
A few years ago, it used to be that we encouraged anyone who was a doctor or an attorney, someone who looked like they had money, because an umbrella policy is a liability umbrella. It extends what you have on your homeowner's liability and your auto liability. It will add an additional $1 million of liability coverage, up to $5 million, I believe. But anymore, we say everyone needs one of those because we're in such a culture of everybody wants to sue everybody. So it's important to just make sure you have your liability protected.
So I'm going to ask a follow-up question. You may or may not know the answer, so I don't put you on the spot with this. But if someone has, because we have a lot of planners in here, and if they have a trust and they've got it funded and most of their assets are in the trust, would they still need an umbrella policy to protect them, or does that trust in some way do that too? Or do you know?
I'm not an expert on trust.
That's fine.
But
That'd be a question to ask.
Yeah, ask your financial planner
Yeah.
on that. Yeah, for sure.
Because it may be a way to save money. If you've got an umbrella policy and you do the trust, maybe you don't need the same amount or
Right.
whatever. So.
Right.
Okay. All right. You guys have got some fantastic questions. Any last minute? Raise your hands. Didn't get your card in. Minute? Yes. What kind of opinions do you have on home warranty companies? Was the question.
So a home warranty is a great thing to have. There are several options on that. Insurance companies have started offering, it's called equipment breakdown coverage. That's an endorsement that you can put on your home policy, equipment breakdown coverage. And it kind of functions the same as a home warranty. So that would be something to just kind of weigh out and look at the coverages.
Well, I'm going to give a round of applause for these ladies. They fielded all of the questions, so good job on that. That was great. And we will have, they're both over here, so if you have questions you want to ask, you're welcome to go over there. Hopefully your takeaway is that you can review your policies, see if you've got questions, and then follow up with your agent. And make sure you're opening your mail, because they may be telling you they're stopping to do something or starting to do something. So don't think it's junk mail. But thanks for coming, and we hope we see you next month. So we do have feedback forms we've given you. If you'll fill those out, that really does help us, because at the end of the day, this education seminar is meant for you. So if we're not hitting the mark, if there's more we could share differently, please let us know, because we want to do the best we can for you. And we hope to see you on May 14th and at Positive Aging. So you guys have a great afternoon. Thanks for being here, and don't forget to stop by and see our education partners. Thanks.